guys, welcome back to the Not Only Carrot Show here on YouTube. I'm Leah, and today I'll be making the gluten steaks from my ebook, No We Don't Only Eat Carrots. They're high protein, 100% plant-based, and best of all, they're really yummy. All right, let's get started. Okay guys, today I will be making our gluten steaks two different ways. The first way will be the conventional way, in a bowl with a spoon, and the second will be in a Thermomix. Both ways make beautiful patties. The Thermomix is just really fast. Okay, so first I'm going to get a wooden spoon. Ding! Okay, now I have my wooden spoon. We'll be putting in our ingredients. To start off, we'll get 2 cups of the Vital wheat gluten flour. And we will add to our gluten flour 1 teaspoon of onion powder, which I buy in bulk. I'm just reusing an old jar. A teaspoon of garlic powder, same deal here with my old peanut butter jar. A teaspoon of salt. 1 tablespoon of Torula yeast. You can buy this online. I just get it from eBay. It's different to yeast flakes, although you can use yeast flakes or the nutritional yeast in place of Torula yeast. It's a stronger flavour and it adds that really meaty flavour to your patties. Okay, now we'll stir together those dry ingredients really carefully because gluten flour is really puffy and yeah, it gets everywhere if you go too fast. Okay, now that it's all stirred together, we're going to add along to that 1.5 cups of water. And 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. Now, one trick with gluten steaks is not to overwork your mixture, because the more you work the mixture, the tougher the gluten steaks get. And it can get a bit like chewing boot leather. And that's not what you want when you want to be eating a yummy patty. So stir it together as much as you can with your spoon. Then I'm going to show you now. Once you get to about this point, it doesn't want to stir together anymore, and you're going to have to get in there with clean hands and mush it around. Oh, can't hold it up, guys. I'll show you at the end once I've done it. Use that dough to rub around the edges. Make sure you get all of that gluten flour in there. Gluten flour is the protein out of the wheat grain, and that's why this is such a great high protein meat substitute. All right, so that's about as much as we'll get out of there. You end up with a dough ball like this, and that's what we're going to make our patties out of today. Just break off small amounts and press it out. Flatten them out into a steak shape, and on a clean bench you can lay them out. Don't put them on top of each other, guys, otherwise they stick together and it's a bit of a pain later on. Don't be tempted to grab a big lot and make a big one like this, because they double in size and you'll end up with this monster patty. So smaller is better for sure. The other alternative is you can pull off small pieces like this and just leave them chunky, and it kind of makes like a chicken nugget. So, all right, so that's how you hand make your steaks in a bowl. Now I'm going to show you how to make them in the Thermomix. All right guys, now we'll make the gluten steaks in the Thermomix. This works in a TM31, TM5 and a TM6 machine. So take off your Thermomix lid, and using the scales, press those and make sure you tear them so that you're back to 0 grams again. We'll be adding 270 grams of gluten flour, which is 2 cups, plus 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of onion powder. Plus 1 tablespoon of the Torula yeast, 45 grams or 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and I'll weigh that in. I already weighed my flour earlier, that's why I didn't weigh it before. Here we go, 45 grams. Remember to go slowly so you don't overdo it. You don't want it to be too salty. There we go. Beautiful, perfect. Okay, and we'll add 375 grams of water, making sure to tear your scales again, and that's 1.5 cups of water. Okay, now, you may not believe me, but I promise you there's no special YouTube magic trickery going on. I am literally going to put this lid on, and I am going to whiz this up, speed 7.5 for 2 seconds. 1, 2 seconds, literally, that's it. And here we go. Okay. If you go too long, you will end up with a really chewy mixture. So this is 2 seconds, and that's it. It just pops out of there, and that's our mixture. All you want to do is you just grab your mixture and drop it in to the pipe. Now, this pipe, because it's so long, can actually fit 4 batches. And earlier today, that's what I did. I piled it right up. But today, I'm just going to show you with one. Get your hand in there, sort of punching. By the end, at the end, by the way, I should have mentioned earlier, is just a bag with some sticky tape over the top. Put that over the end so it doesn't fall out. And get your fist, and you want to punch. You're punching in the end to make sure there isn't any air. I'm going to wash my hands and I'll tie the thing onto the end. Okay, so all I've done is just grabbed just a freezer bag, doubled it over so it's a bit stronger, and then got some thick sticky tape. I might call it cello tape. I don't know what Americans call sticky tape. Probably just sticky tape. Packing tape. I just tie it around the top, snip it off, and then another time just around the base. Now, because it's only one batch, this probably doesn't matter too much because it's not really going to fall out, but it does stop it drying out in the freezer. But if you do fill this up with your 4 batches, it's going to be full. So you don't want it slopping out in your freezer. Okay guys, so this sort of a pipe, you can buy it at your local hardware store. I just got mine from Bunnings here in Australia. It's 90 mil diameter, which is about 3.5 inches, and it's 50 mil in height, which is 20 inches in height. Now that it's got our mixture in there, I'm gonna pop this in the freezer. If it'll fit in your normal freezer, good for you. Mine wouldn't fit, I tried, but it will go in the deep freeze, and you wanna leave it in there for roughly an hour, but you can leave it for longer. Okay guys, the pipe has now been removed from the deep freeze. Let's check it out, take the end off there. Yeah, a big gluten sausage. That's pretty cool. All right, this is the fun part. We're just gonna slice it up. 1 centimeter slices should be enough. Now, I did leave mine in for a fairly long time. Oh, half an inch, I've been reminded, because yes, most people, apart from in Australia, don't use centimeters. So you're getting your circles like this. So make sure your bench is clean and you can lie them next to each other. Don't put them on top of each other, because if they start to get a little bit soft, they will stick together. It's roughly 8 steaks for one mixture of the gluten steaks from the book. Now I'm going to grab a pot and we will get these babies boiling on the stove. Okay guys, now you'll need a large pot with 2 litres of water in that. That's about 8 cups of water, and we'll add to that some veggie stock. I use the Massel brand and it is 100% plant-based. You can also use the Massel brand beef flavoured stock as well. And to our water, we will add 2.5 tablespoons of the stock powder. You can use the cubes as well, but I just find the powder easier to dissolve. All right, now just take your pot now over to the stove and bring it to a rolling boil, and we'll add our patties. Okay guys, the water is now boiling. It's at a rolling boil, so it's got lots and lots of big strong bubbles in there. Take off your lid and one by one put your patties gently, by placing them in the water and releasing them, put them in one by one into that water. Don't cook your fingers. Fingers aren't vegan, okay? Don't splash them in there either, just one by one. And you're going to leave your patties now in the water. Once it comes back to a rolling boil again, you're going to keep your lid on an angle and boil them up for half an hour. When the half an hour is up, test your patties to make sure that they have a bit of pull about them. If you pull them and they break instantly, you'll probably need to leave them for another 5 to 10 minutes on a really high boil, because if you take them off too soon and they're a bit soggy, then yeah, the texture won't be right. But usually 30 minutes is perfect. Okay guys, our gluten steaks have been boiling now on the stove for 30 minutes. You can actually, during that time of boiling, bring the temperature down on the stove to a strong simmer. It doesn't have to be that rolling boil, but it just has to be enough heat to keep them cooking. But if it does boil for the full half hour, that's okay too, as long as you don't run out of water. So we don't want them boiling dry. All right, my pan's a bit hot. So here we are. As you can see, they expand and get really fat. What we want to do now is drain them. So I'm going to get my colander and we'll drain them in this pot. Okay, I have my colander now. I had it in the wrong spot. All right, so just tip them into, I'll go this side. Tip them into the colander carefully. Try not to hurt yourself with splashing. I like to save that stock or the broth and use it again for stews and things like that. I'm going to drain out my gluten steaks in this big one. I had an extra one. What you can do is leave this in the fridge and it'll actually drain out quite well on its own. If you are in a rush and you're making them right now and you want to eat right now, use a serving spoon and press down carefully with the back of the spoon. I'll hold it up so you can see. You'll see a fair bit of liquid that just starts popping out there. Press gently so you don't break the patties, because they are still, they're chewy, but they still have a soft texture. And you can press a fair bit out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these patties now in the colander and let them actually naturally drain, and you can cool them even in the fridge, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to fry them up. One trick though is, I'll use a fork so I don't burn myself. Have the patties lying in your colander the way you want them to look when they're finished. Because if you leave them all curled up like this, that's how your patty will actually cool and it'll be hard to fry up. So leave them flat. So just flatten them out a little bit as best as you can anyway. All right, that's good. So just leave these to cool now in the fridge and we'll come back and we will fry them up. Okay guys, now we'll be making our Seitan egg to go on the outside of our patties. Seitan flour is made out of garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and we will be adding all of these ingredients just to a regular blender. I'll use my Thermomix, but a regular blender is perfectly fine for this step. So we need a half a cup of the Seitan flour, along with a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a half a teaspoon of onion powder. Plus, you're going to need a quarter of a cup of water, maybe up to a half a cup. Just see how thick the mixture is. You don't want it too gloopy on there. So I'll start with a quarter of a cup and see how we go. That's 60 grams for the Thermomix users. And just blend it up until it's smooth. On the Thermomix, that's speed 5 for about 5 seconds. All right, so as you can see, that's pretty thick in there. I'm going to add a little extra water to mine. Sometimes that Seitan flour can be quite thirsty, so I'll add a little extra and just whiz it up again. Okay. Yep, that's a bit better. And we're going to put our mixture now back in the bowl we had our flour in to start off with. And now we get closer to our finished product. Once your patties have cooled down and you've drained that liquid off them in the colander, just dip each patty into your Seitan egg. It's like when you make your egg wash out of egg and milk. Try not to put it into the breadcrumbs until you've dripped off a fair bit of the liquid. And I find that rubbing it in the breadcrumbs like this is a great way to coat each side, so you end up with a really good coat on both sides of your patty. Now watch out when you're buying your breadcrumbs at the shops. A lot of breadcrumbs have fish in the ingredients. It's just beyond me why there would be fish in bread, but anyway, there often is. An easy way to make your own breadcrumbs is save bits and pieces of toast or crusts that no one's eating and toast them up and then break them up into pieces and shove them in your blender and whiz them up and you get your own homemade breadcrumbs. And if you want them to be really crispy like these ones, just put them in the oven at a really low temperature, about 100 to 120 degrees Celsius, and you'll end up with really crispy, yummy breadcrumbs. Okay guys, now we're going to fry up our gluten steaks. To begin with though, you'll need a display plate and a couple of paper towels to soak up any excess oil, plus a neutral flavored oil like vegetable oil or rice bran oil, which is what I'll use today. And I just cover the bottom of my pan with the oil. So you're not deep frying them, but it's more of a shallow fry. All right, bring your pan up to a high heat and make sure you have some tongs. Non-stick pans, obviously non-stick tongs, but I'm naughty and I don't use that because I don't find they pick up as well. So don't follow me, I'm being naughty. All right, let's get these patties into the oil and make sure it bubbles around the edges. If it doesn't, then heat the oil up a little hotter first. It may take a couple of batches to get the full plate of patties fried up. We'll cook them on each side for about 3 or so minutes so that they're nice golden brown, even a deep brown if you like a crunchy gluten steak. All right, we'll flip them over and get the other side cooking. Ooh, they look really good. Oh, the middle ones aren't quite ready, but the outside ones are good. They're good to come out. Just keep in mind that the patties, these gluten steaks, are actually already cooked. You're just putting a nice crispy layer on the outside. If you wanted to, you can eat them just straight after they've been boiled. You can just eat them then. But the frying adds a lot of flavour, so I recommend you try the frying at least once before you decide not to do it. I'm going to move him to the outside. We'll get our other ones in. So as you can see, it is actually a really easy meal to make. You can make gluten steaks in a big batch. You could use that pipe, get 4 batches made. You're going to have 4 eggs, you're going to have 32 patties there. Or you can just make a single batch in one go. The gluten steaks also freeze and reheat really well. Once you freeze them and you want to have them for lunch one day, leave them to defrost, and then I just microwave mine by putting another plate on top of a plate, and just a couple of minutes in the microwaves can be enough to do that. Or you can refry them on the stove in a little bit of oil as well and make them crispy again. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, share the video with a friend, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!